We will get started. This is our Division F support call for our Vice Presidents of Membership, Vice Presidents of Public Relations, and Sergeants at Arms. And we're all really challenged right now because with personal distancing and not having meetings at normal locations that we usually have, it means that we're really challenged about how to find new members, how to bring new members to the meeting, and even sometimes how to convert those guests to members. And this evening, I'd like to talk about some ideas for solving those questions and problems. And if anybody has suggestions that they'd like to also share, that would rock. So I guess let's get started. One challenge that we're facing that isn't readily apparent until somebody's whipping their checkbook out is that we need to be able to answer the questions that our guests have about our clubs. And while things about pathways stay the same and things about executive members of the club stay the same, being able to answer the question about how long will you be virtual versus when are you going back to in-person can determine if one of your guests wants to join. Because unfortunately, there's some people who don't like virtual at all. And there's some people who might not be able to make your meetings depending on where you end up after virtual stops. So as an executive committee, each club needs to have that discussion about what you're going to be doing moving forward. And it doesn't have to have a concrete timeline, but make sure that you all have some of the information you need to make those decisions. I know one of my clubs is confronted with the fact that they will not have in-person meetings until at least January because their corporate office is prohibiting meetings involving outsiders until January. Another club has already started looking into making sure they have the hardware so they can go hybrid when they do make the switch to make sure that virtual attendees are still able to make those meetings. So these are questions that each executive group needs to make. Getting additional feedback from members can be helpful because if you have a member who just happens to have unlimited internet on their hotspot cell phone, that would be good to know. Basically, you're going to need to have at least 1 or 2 laptops or really decent phones that you can position for video. You would need to have internet available at the location. And that way you can make sure that your virtual guests can stay members. On the other hand, for the guests who don't like virtual at all, being able to pivot into having some in-person events or meetings can be helpful. And one of the clubs I know of has had a speak-a-thon at a park using social distancing, not bringing any snacks, which is a bummer, but making sure to stay separate, not shaking hands, and still delivering those speeches out in the great outdoors. So with a little creativity and a little planning, development membership can still happen. So once your executive committee and or your whole club has made that decision, there's still going to be the question of how to find these new guests because we're not as face-to-face and able to just invite people off the cuff. Instead, reaching out to people either directly through email or through different virtual channels can be helpful. Reaching out to coworkers through email is probably one of the most direct methods because You're less likely to fall into a spam folder. Also, reaching out to former coworkers can be helpful. It's really tragic that right now we do have many coworkers who may not be employed as they were at the beginning of this situation, but they can still use Toastmasters to improve their interview abilities and look forward to finding those new positions and finding that confidence that can really help them be more employable. So if you know of any former coworkers, reaching out to them in their personal emails can be productive. So other than reaching out to individuals one-to-one, trying to find new guests can be a little bit of a challenge, but ways to do this for free include obviously using Facebook, either through your personal Facebook or reaching out to your division director, because our division pages are often out there. Robert is the Division F director, and he can publish graphics if you would like to share those with other people about special meetings. There's also other web pages that are available that can be either free or essentially free, and that would include LinkedIn. Reaching out to the people that you have professional connections can offer your friends the ability to develop those Toastmasters friendly skills and improve their game. There's also things like local town hall pages on Facebook. We have like a Bayview Town Hall, and I know that while there are crime watch pages, there are also more conversational, informative pages that might be handy. They usually require membership. So if you find people in your club that would be willing to do that, that can be an option. Invite people that way. Nextdoor requires a subscription. I don't know if it costs money, but it is fairly localized, and it can be a place that you can announce special meetings. Professional sites. If you are a member of a professional organization, maybe a union, maybe if you have a SharePoint at work and you want to bring people into your community club, these are all different options depending on, the specific rules for how they allow you to engage. One other idea might be to share with other people in your area, your division, or your locality, if it's outside your division even, to trade announcements. Because if your club is constantly meeting at a time that one of your friends cannot get to it, but they still want to join Toastmasters, being able to develop that awesome Toastmasters karma of sharing events might be able to bring that person into somebody else's club. And when they advertise for you, again, you might be able to benefit for that. So some Toastmasters karma is a good thing. One other option that we do have here in Division 35 is the Meetup page. Meetup used to be a place that would, or a page that would allow people to just develop event advertising for free, but they changed their business model in the last year or two. And while they used to have a very cheap option that some clubs went with, instead they went with a more expensive model. And I have a Meetup account that I use to publicize the non-corporate clubs, the open clubs, throughout divisions A, B, D, and F. So that's Milwaukee, the Milwaukee area, southeastern Wisconsin. I think I have just about all the clubs represented on there, but we would love to have meeting event organizers or event hosts that would be a contact for people who are interested in attending your meetings. One other consideration is that when you're advertising, you should decide if you want to put your Zoom link or your groups link or your team link into that posting or the graphic. Zoom does not recommend publishing links directly to extremely public pages. However, they have improved their security, and I haven't really heard of people getting Zoom bombed nearly as much as we heard about that back in like March.
Teresa?
So it's a matter of making sure that people are able to get a hold of either a contact or if they have the link so they can get to your meetings.
Teresa?
Yes, sir.
Can I just make a quick comment on the Zoom thing? Just because I see how these things work, and I'm a web developer, so a little bit of insight. As far as this goes, Zoom gives you an auto join link that usually has your zoom.us/whatever number, and then afterwards it says $PWD equals, and it has this really long string of random stuff. That's the link with your meeting password coded right into the link. So if you share that, somebody doesn't have to type the password. It just kind of streams them right on into your meeting. If you want to share a meeting link somewhere else, then what I would highly suggest you do is just share the link up to the end of the ID. So delete everything after the question mark and then share the password with it. So somebody who's just cruising around the internet harvesting links can't go to that link. They actually have to see the link and see the password and type it in. It's just one more step of authentication, so to speak. It's still not super secure, but with all my clubs, that's how we post our links. We post the link and the password separately because a human can solve that, but a robot that wants to bomb your meeting, much more problematic. So
sort of social engineering security.
Yeah, basically.
So I've put up the list of options that I talked a little bit about. If anybody has experience with any of these or challenges, I'd love to hear stories. And mainly it's just a matter of getting out the information digitally and bringing people in, because right now we're not really geographically restricted. I attended 2 clubs in California last week. So it's an option for finding new guests, for finding new members.
Teresa?
Hi, Cindy.
Hey, hi. I just discovered that Zoom also has a great registration feature. So if you go into, when you're setting up your meeting and you go into Zoom and you normally pick the day and the time and the length of the meeting, if you scroll down, there's something that says registration. If you click on that, it gives you a really professional looking registration link where the person then types in their name, their address. You can decide the demographics that you want, and it gives them a reg link, and then you know who's coming. So if we'd want to do some kind of event on that, I'd be happy to forward that on to you or help in that process.
Excellent. Sweet. And that way you have the person's contact information right off the bat, so you can follow up with them and encourage them to come back and or send a check.
Yep, I went to a registration event where I registered, and immediately afterward, the meeting person can send out a thank you email. You can track internationally what country people are coming from, their time zone. So it's just a great way to slice and dice the data.
Excellent. Sweet. So Jeff, with Southwestern, you guys use Zoom, right? Yeah. Have you had any additional guests coming in?
Yes, we use Zoom. We've had guests from San Jose, California, Minneapolis. Obviously, they're not going to be members. They're just having something to do because they're sitting at home doing nothing. So it's been, but it's been good for our club. As you know, last year we had 22 members in our club. So we're doing pretty good, and we still have 20 members in the club. So we're doing really well. And Zoom is working just fine for us. The meetings are well attended. So that's working good. A lot of the things you have up on the screen here, we're using all of those other than Nextdoor. And I'm registered on Nextdoor for my neighborhood here, but actually it's really broad. You can kind of pick how big the area you want. I can say in my little town here, or 50 miles out, I can do. So that's something new. I learned that's a good idea. I didn't even think about using Nextdoor, but we do use Meetup. We got all the Facebook pages. We got web pages, and that way. So we use all that, and we've had a combination of luck between the two. Sometimes we get some in, we don't know who it is. They just, hey, we want to come to the meeting, whatever. So we've got new members through the social media, and when we've got the other 50% of the members because they know somebody in our club. Mm-hmm. So both have worked well. We're going to continue to use Zoom too. So when we get to the end here, if we have enough time, I can talk a little bit about you because you started out about virtual meetings. So I'll let you continue on here with your presentation.
Okay. Nicole, happy Sunday. With your clubs, have you heard anything about recruiting members through social media, or have they had any specific successes?
Well, I was VPPR for Wisconsin Club last term, and the meetup was kind of hard. Like, a lot of people signed up, but nobody actually attended the meetings when they did the meetup.com.
Okay.
But Facebook, we did a lot of Facebook contact.
Okay. With Meetup, did anybody reach out to the people who indicated they'd be guests?
No.
Okay.
I guess that would be important.
Well, it's funny because some people on Meetup, they're just like, they think their RSVP is fine and they'll just show up because they want to show up, and that's great. Sometimes they want to hear a little bit more detail, and we do not have a specific RSVP email default. If people join the Meetup group of Southeastern Wisconsin Toastmasters, they get an email talking about how, hey, we have like all these different clubs, all these different times, all these different locations. By all means, find a club that can help you develop to, reach your goals. But individual events don't have response emails, and a club might consider that as part of the event host duties on Meetup. It doesn't have to be the VPPR or the VPM. It could be something you can offload to a member to get them more engaged in those executive functions. But it's possible getting that warm, fuzzy, welcoming feeling before they even attend the meeting might help.
Right. For the Oak Creek Toastmasters, I even talked to my good friend who lives down the block from us, and she's a librarian at the library, and I was like, do you know anything about Toastmasters? And she was like, no.
Yeah,
so
bring her.
I'm hopefully I will bring her and her husband sometime soon. But that's kind of weird that the librarian of Oak Creek didn't even know about the Oak Creek Toastmasters, even though you guys are just down the block from them.
Yeah, well, they're actually at the community center, right, Cindy? So it's right there in Oak Creek, but the library is a separate location from where Oak Creek Toastmasters meets. We had an event in the library building a few months ago, but I guess that actually speaks to the idea that, the old methods are still the good methods, that, putting up a few posters can't hurt, because there are still people going out People are still getting coffee. People are still going to the grocery store. People are still, even if they're just going to the desk to pick up their books so there's minimal contact, making sure that you have a visual reminder to people in your neighborhood can still help.
Teresa,
Yes, Robert.
I just wanted to also flag, Jeff mentioned, having guests from Minnesota and how, they probably wouldn't become members. That's not necessarily a given during COVID, especially if you tell them for sure that you are committed to supporting virtual meetings through at least a particular day. So if you say, you know what, through the end of the next dues period, one of Teresa's clubs I know did this, through the end of the next dues period, we are definitely meeting virtually. So if you want to join, that's awesome. But the other thing with that, even if you just have some buddies from New York that just really want to show up and hang out with you for a Toastmasters meeting, the more people you get on a call, the more effective you're frequently going to be in recruiting the people who actually are your member prospects. Because there's nothing quite like, and this happened to Wisconsin Club, the first time I attended, the guests outnumbered the members, thank you, DJAB. And they had like 4 members and like 7 guests. And the guests all picked up stuff because we're all Toastmasters and we filled things in. But if they had another regular guest during that meeting, well, this looks like a thriving club that really has their stuff together, even if they only had 4 of their own people at a meeting. So don't discount the possibilities of getting a bunch of people on these calls, even if they're not formal members of the club.
I think, well, Liz is with Spectacle City, and I think there's one lady in the Spectacle City who's been doing, there's one lady who's been doing speeches at Spectacle City, but I'm not sure if she's an official member.
Sorry, Teresa, I'm gonna hop in. You're talking about Helen, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so she did become an official member for this next 6 months at minimum, because
Where does she live?
Minneapolis, the cities in
Cool.
Minnesota. So she did become a member, mostly because we're looking at probably doing a hybrid of in-person meetings with including the virtual. So we would at least allow her to have, at least this year at our club. So
Excellent. And I'm in a club that meets on Friday night, DJAB, and we actually recruited somebody from New York and a couple people from the West Coast. And when it gets into time zones, it can be a little tricky, but yeah, having those virtual, capabilities, yeah, you can reach out to those people in Minneapolis, California, New York. And if they want that opportunity to speak, they will join, especially if you're a good club. And frankly, Jeff, yeah, Southwest is good. Jeff, you were thinking of, would you be able to tell us a little bit more about the functionality you were talking about?
Oh, I'm not following with regard to.
Did you mean Cindy, Teresa?
I thought Jeff was talking about I did not write it down. I just remember we were talking about how I didn't write it down. I'm sorry.
We're talking about Zoom registration?
That was Cindy.
Okay.
Okay. I'm sorry. I thought Jeff volunteered some information that we were going to follow up on. Basically, I just wanted to make sure that you guys all knew a little bit about some of the different opportunities for getting the word out, especially with reaching out to people that aren't literally in your neighborhood, spreading out more information, sharing information with other clubs as far as swapping those announcements. If you have people attending Thursdays, TLI, reaching out to other VPPRs, other VPMs, even sergeants at arms, getting the word out about special meetings that you're having, it can help you bring in even more people to make that density happen. And yeah, ask them if they want to join and get your numbers up and have even more engaged members. And Cindy notes
Teresa?
that, yep.
For the people in Division F clubs, I just wanted to flag the Division F area directors all have the ability to announce something to the Division F Facebook page, because I trust the area directors with that. You know, pending review as long as they're responsible, but you know, one of those things. So if you have an event, you don't have to reach out to me. You can talk to your area director, who you probably have a better relationship with than me, hopefully. The other thing though, too, if anybody's watching this from other divisions, if your club has something that is useful to the people in Division F, like if you're running, like Alice Chalmers, if they were in Division B or whatever, and they were doing their evaluation university, I would absolutely like to see that posted to the Division F page, especially during virtual meetings. Because if you have something that's still in this, you know, Southeast Wisconsin area that's useful to the people in Division F, something unique going on, please feel free, reach out, let's get it promoted.
Yep. Cindy mentions that we've been able to have virtual and hybrid clubs since 2016. And one of my corporate clubs did a trial run at doing virtual meetings back then. Another club has done it regularly since then, because we also had people joining from different branches. But now that we're all becoming even more familiar with the technology and our work situations have all been a little different lately, it really makes it a really great opportunity to bring more people into those Zoom meetings and discuss with the rest of your executive committee about making sure about what your plans are as far as virtual versus in person. Get more members, win prizes. Just as a heads up, there are a couple new opportunities for District 35, and I know I sent it out to my clubs that they have on the D35 page. It's the incentives opportunities, and a lot of it is encouraging people to do things they were going to do anyway, but do it sooner. And I'm going to encourage everybody to check out the D35, district35.org webpage and click on incentives, because it allows you to see exactly what's out there. They do not have an incentive for the successful club program yet, but they do have something similar to the Distinguished in December. They have something similar about having open houses. So getting those ready and getting those going can win you some extra prizes. Plan through August, then execute, Cindy says. And does that refer to August next month, or, oh, do you mean planning by the end of August and then cranking it into gear?
Yeah, I think clubs, districts, divisions, all of us, we tend to get stuck in the planning phase. I've really tried to take the approach of plan your events or plan your plan through August and then do it. Stop planning it and start executing it.
Yep. You don't have to have everybody absolutely signed on to every single committee on August 30th, but make sure and bring people aboard as you realize that there's a certain overlap between club things and their personal goals.
Also, just flagging that Cindy is part of a club with actually with two of our area directors, but one of our area directors, Jackie Breezer, came up with, Nikki's not part of Oak Creek.
Oh, that's right, yet.
So, but yeah, yet. Hope springs eternal. Jackie Breezer, who is the area director for F1, put together actually an Excel spreadsheet for planning their club's year. And it has the district events, the club events, the meetings, the things they're going to be doing. And we put together a super, super quick video where I walk people through the spreadsheet, and there's a link to the actual spreadsheet where you can just suck down the Excel file. That is on the Division F Facebook page. So if you just scroll back half a dozen posts, you'll be able to see that. So yeah, if you want to do your planning, the documents are out there. I'm not going to say it's easy because you got to get everybody on the same page, but the documents are out there, the templates are out there, and your area directors for sure are there to support you if you need help with any of this. And of course, so am I. So.
Okay. Did anybody have questions about or suggestions about any of this? Or are we all good? I just wanted to make sure people had ideas, had opportunities and information about some great free resources to reach out, bring in new guests, new members, and get the word out of your awesome clubs. Anything else?
Yeah.
Yes, Jeff?
Yeah, just going back to what you and Robert were talking about in the beginning about, when is it time to come back, virtual meetings versus face-to-face, how that impacts people. But I'm just going to ask for all of your help. As we know, we meet in the Franklin area. We used to be at the Polish Center, but they got so expensive that it was just almost like they wanted us to leave. So we were fortunate enough to find a very nice room the first of the year at Forest Hill. It's like a senior center complex, and that beautiful commons room, and they didn't charge us, and they hoped that maybe some of the residents there would join our club. So we were like so super excited. I think we had 3 or 4 meetings there, and all of a sudden, COVID hit. So as you can probably guess, that's the last facility as we're probably ever going to get back to once things open, because it's a senior center.
Yeah.
And they've been very nice about it. They've been corresponding with us. It's a big corporate, real estate organization that manages, so they're not going to probably let us in. So we're starting to look around a little bit in preparation for coming back. Where do we do? We can't go back to the Polish Center. We talked to them. They're just unreasonable on cost. But we talked to 4 different libraries, and these libraries are all closing early. They have the room. They're not open yet for use, but the libraries we checked all 4. Franklin, Greendale, Greenfield, Muskego. They just closing too early because we meet from like 7 to 8:30 or so. Mm-hmm. Benny's is an option because, 3 of my clubs when I was in F1 met at Benny's, and I know the menu inside and out, by the way. And so Benny's is an option, but we got a little conflict because there's another club that meets there, one, resource advance. So that's kind of out. Waterstone Bank, it's free to use in the bank. They're really good about Waterstone Bank. Another club I know uses it there, but they're not opening up either. And so if anybody knows, just give me some ideas. I'm willing to work with them that you think that we can get there for a reasonable price or free in the Franklin area. Just give me an email or a text or something. That'd be helpful.
It's pretty far west, but not Liz. There's Speakeasy is one of the other clubs in our area. They're out at I believe it's the New Berlin Library, so it's further west. And I'm not sure how readily they would reach out to another Toastmasters club. I don't want to harm any of my babies, but that's an option. What I do have is a moderately outdated list of places that I used to have some contact information. So I'll send that to you, and some of it might be helpful. Okay, cool. So if I can help anybody doing Meetup, or if you have other questions about reaching out virtually, please give me a scream. And I hope everybody can pull in some great guests, some great members. Let's get those numbers up. People don't have to worry about parking. People don't have to worry about changing clothes so they look like a normal human being. They just have to turn on their computer and join your club. And I think it can be a really great opportunity for growth for District 35 and for our areas. And Cindy wants to meet in jammies. I think, Cindy, we should start up a club meeting in our jammies.
I love it.
Yeah, that's a possibility.
Yeah.
Actually, seriously, that's a possibility. Okay. Thank you so much for your time. Did anybody have any other questions, suggestions, feedback?
This was a great call. Thank you for scheduling it, you guys.
Okay. Have a great evening. I want to make sure you guys have the rest of your evening back. Thank you so much for your time.
All right. Hey, thanks for your leadership. We know this is tough times, and you guys keep plugging away. It'll get better. All right.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Yes, thank you guys.
Night.
Yep, take care.